Have you ever thought about whether your money could be out there working for you, like really working for you without needing any banks at all? Well, that's the big promise we're going to decode today, decentralized finance, or DeFi. So get ready because we're taking a look at a massive shift in how money itself works.
And this quote, man, it really gets to the heart of what DeFi is all about. It's this idea that you're no longer just sitting on the sidelines of your own financial life. It's a huge shift. It's inviting you to be an active participant, a builder, and yeah, a learner in a totally new financial world.
So, before we get into the nitty-gritty of how you can participate, we first got to understand the big picture. Let's really dig into what DeFi is and what makes it so different from the financial system we've all grown up with.
At its absolute core, DeFi is a financial system that's built on top of blockchain technology. And here's the key difference. There are no more middlemen, no banks, no brokers. Instead, the whole thing runs on these automated digital agreements called smart contracts. And that, right there, is the real game changer, because it puts you in full control of your own money.
And when you put the two systems side by side like this, the difference is just, well, it's night and day. In the old system, control is in the hands of a few. Getting access can be tough, and you can't always see what's happening. But with DeFi, you have the control. It's open to pretty much anyone with an internet connection, and every transaction is out there for the world to see. It's really the difference between asking for permission and just having ownership. It's about empowering you to be your own bank.
Okay, so we know what DeFi is and why it's such a big deal, but how does it actually work? Let's peel back the layers and take a look at the fundamental building blocks that make this whole new world possible.
You know, the engine that drives this entire thing is the smart contract. A good way to think about it is like a digital vending machine. It's just an agreement written in code. When you meet the conditions, you put in the money, it automatically performs the action. It gives you the snack. There's no person in the middle, just pure, transparent, reliable code.
And if smart contracts are the engine, then you could say liquidity pools are the fuel that makes them run. These are basically just big piles of different funds locked inside a smart contract. They're what allow people to trade cryptocurrencies instantly, without having to wait around for a buyer or seller to show up. It's what makes the whole system of decentralized trading actually function.
Now, this entire ecosystem is built on a few key pieces. At the very foundation, you have the blockchain networks themselves, like Ethereum or Solana. And then on top of those, you have all these different kinds of digital assets, or tokens. For instance, you've got utility tokens to pay for services, you've got governance tokens that give you a say in a project's future, and then you have stablecoins, which are designed to hold a steady value, kind of like a digital dollar.
All right, we've covered the basics. Now let's get to the part that really grabs everyone's attention. How can you actually earn passive income here? How do you put your assets to work without having to be a full-time trader glued to a screen?
Well, there are two main ways to do this. On one side, you have staking. This is where you lock up your tokens to help keep the network secure, and for doing that, you earn rewards. On the other side, you can provide liquidity. That's where you deposit a pair of tokens into one of those pools we talked about to help other people trade, and you earn a little slice of the fees from those trades.
Now, providing liquidity, I know it sounds pretty complicated, but it actually follows a pretty clear path. It all starts with picking a platform you trust. Then you pick a pair of tokens you want to provide. You'll have to deposit an equal value of both, confirm the transaction, and what you get back is something called an LP token. Think of it like a receipt that proves your share of that pool.
So, what kind of returns are we really talking about here? I mean, that's the big question, right? Well, just to keep expectations in check, for some of the lower-risk strategies, things like using stablecoins, the annual percentage yield, or APY, can often be somewhere in the ballpark of 5 to 20%. But, and this is so important, with higher potential rewards come very real, very significant risks. You absolutely have to understand what you're getting into before you even think about putting a single dollar in. So let's talk about the side of DeFi that can be pretty scary.
And the first big one we have to tackle is this concept that confuses a lot of people when they're starting out. What in the world is impermanent loss? Okay, here's the simplest way to wrap your head around it. Impermanent loss is basically an opportunity cost. It's the difference in value between putting your assets in a pool versus if you had just held onto them in your wallet. The more the prices of the tokens in the pool change relative to each other, the bigger that potential difference becomes. It's called impermanent because if the prices return to where they started, the loss disappears.
So, how do you actually deal with this risk? Well, you can't just wish it away, but you can definitely reduce it. One of the best ways is to use pairs of stablecoins, because their prices don't really move much at all. Another is to stick with tokens that are less volatile, like Bitcoin and Ethereum. It also helps to spread your risk across different pools. And of course, you got to keep an eye on the market.
And beyond that one specific risk, there are some giant red flags you always need to be on the lookout for. Be super skeptical of any project promising crazy high returns. If it sounds way too good to be true, it is. Find out who the team is. If they're all anonymous, that's a bad sign. A huge one is if they don't have a professional smart contract audit. And finally, check out their community. If it's a total ghost town, you probably want to stay away.
Okay, so we've seen the potential, and we've talked about the very real pitfalls. If you're still curious and thinking, all right, how do I safely start exploring this? Let's walk through what your first cautious steps should look like.
First things first, you need a starter kit. This means getting yourself a secure digital wallet, something like MetaMask or Trust Wallet. You'll also need to get familiar with gas fees. That's just the small cost you pay for making a transaction on the network. And finally, you have to learn how to get funds into that wallet safely from a well-known trusted exchange.
And listen, if you take nothing else away from this, please burn this safety checklist into your brain. Do your own research. Write down your wallet's recovery phrase and secure it somewhere offline, never on your computer. When you start, use tiny test amounts to get the hang of it. And the golden rule that applies to everything in life applies here more than ever. Never, ever invest more than you are truly prepared to lose.
So here's the bottom line. A brand new financial world is literally being built, line by line of code, as we speak. It's a system that's designed to take the power from the institutions and put it back in your hands. So the only question that's really left is the one you see right here. Are you ready to be your own bank?